What do you say we open up the toolbox? Hey kids, it's Rusty Pliers.
Please don't ask about the badge. All right, thank you. I'm Rusty Pliers. Thanks for coming out. I appreciate it very much. Nocturnal events. My family immigrated to New Zealand in 1967 when I was 14 years old. I was a gawky, introspective kind of kid who didn't fit in very well to my new country with its strange ways. I especially failed at school. My parents, trying to be helpful, said that I should buckle down, try a little harder. They knew a boy with my talents could do better, much better. So during week, on school nights, my usual occupation was homework, studying history, geography, English, not very exciting nocturnal events. But every now and then, a nocturnal event came that was very exciting. Sometimes there came to me unbidden in the night while I slept, realistic visions of an extremely sensuous nature. Unfortunately, rather than enjoy these wonderful erotic dreams for what they were, the morning found me covered in shame and the sheets spotted in semen. I'm sure I'm not the first person that has happened to, awaking to shame and semen, but that didn't make it any easier and less disturbing when it was happening to me, especially the first few times. I did my best to hide my shame in my sheets. Naturally, my mother discovered my secret almost immediately. "You better talk to your father about this," she said, blushing a little. She wasn't disgusted, as I feared she would be. That made me feel a lot better. "It's a natural thing that comes to every growing boy," she added. She had been a nurse, and I figured she knew what she was talking about. Also, my mother could never tell a lie. So I would get the truth, and even a 14-year-old boy knows that truth sheds light and light dispels fear and shame. And she said, being part of nature, it's not unhealthy, you see? "I think so," I said. "So don't be ashamed or worried, honey." I felt relieved, but questions flooded my mind. "Yeah," I started, "but what about when Your dad will explain everything," she said, anticipating me and dismissing the subject. And explain, Dad did. I think he was more nervous than I was when we sat down to talk. After the first hour, my head was dizzy, my innards were knotted, and my faith was crumbling. After a few hours more, we had to call a halt for intermissions and ask for sustenance. Mom, bringing in some tea and cookies, glanced nervously at us and departed in silence. After another hour, Dad's voice grew hoarse, and he resorted, as I suspected he had planned all along, to diagrams. Being an artist, he believed himself on firmer ground with a pencil in his hand. Try as he might, though, Dad's explanation was vague and more dismissed the subject rather than elucidated it. Maybe it was me, although I'm usually not so dumb when about a subject I'm interested in. I wish I'd taken notes, because this particular man-to-man talk between a father and son with its confusing mix of science, religion, and voodoo would never be realistically captured all these years later by a writer of my, shall we say, modest endowments. Yes, I said modest endowments, and a pun was intended there. After all, I'm a humorist, and I've got to grab them when I can. And I salute those of you that are thinking about grabbing modest endowments at this very minute. But I remember that our mammoth birds and bees tete-a-tete, covering human history and the sciences from the dawn of man to the present time, and lasting more than 4 hours according to the kitchen wall clock, had not one mention of sex, or bird, or bee. Much later, my mother said she was going to call in the Marines. Although I don't know how the heck they could have helped the situation. Thank you for listening. Rusty Pliers.